Have you ever wondered what life would be like if Earth wasn't orbiting the Sun? What would happen if Earth became a rogue planet? There are real worlds drifting through space completely alone. No parent star, no sunlight, no warmth, and according to astronomers, the Milky Way could actually be filled with them. Some estimates suggest there may be billions of rogue planets hidden throughout our galaxy right now. And that raises a terrifying question. What would actually happen if Earth became one of them? As impossible as it sounds, planets can be violently thrown out their solar systems. A passing star, a giant planet, or even the death of a star itself could destabilize an entire solar system. And if that ever happened to Earth, the consequences would be catastrophic. No more sunlight. No more blue skies. So, could humanity actually survive on a world with no sun? I know, at first this concept may sound almost impossible. Planets are supposed to orbit stars, right? Stable, predictable, permanent. But young solar systems tend to be incredibly violent places. When planets first begin forming, entire worlds can migrate across their solar systems. Massive gas giants pull on smaller planets with enormous gravitational forces, sometimes flinging them completely out of orbit. And when that happens, there is no coming back. The planet doesn't slowly drift away from its star, it gets violently ejected, slingshotted into interstellar space at incredible speeds. Imagine standing on Earth and watching the sun slowly shrink in the sky over years, then decades, until eventually it becomes just another star in the darkness. No more sunrise, no more daytime, just a permanent night. And as terrifying as that sounds, astronomers believe this has already happened countless of times across the galaxy. Some even think it happened in our solar system billions of years ago. Some rogue planets may have been thrown out after close encounters with giant worlds larger than Jupiter. Others may have lost their stars completely after catastrophic gravitational disruptions. Entire planets abandoned by their solar systems forever. The terrifying part is that space doesn't care how special Earth is. Gravity has no favorites. One unstable interaction and an entire world can be thrown into darkness permanently. And if that ever happened to Earth, the first few months would probably feel surreal. The sun would still be there in the sky, smaller every year but still visible. Governments would panic. Scientists would scramble for answers. But for a while, life on Earth would continue almost normally. But that won't last long. Within just a few weeks, global temperatures would already begin to fall. Not dramatically at first, but enough for people to realize something was deeply wrong. Winters would become harsher, summers would become colder, and entire ecosystems would begin struggling almost immediately. The unsettling part is that Earth wouldn't simply freeze overnight. It would happen slowly enough for humanity to watch it unfold in front of their eyes. The oceans would begin freezing from the surface downward. Massive sheets of ice would slowly spread across the planet year after year. Entire coastlines would disappear beneath frozen oceans. Rivers would stop flowing. Forests would begin dying off across huge parts of the planet. And eventually, sunlight and its warmth would stop having any real meaning. But the sun gives Earth far more than just warmth. Almost every form of life on this planet depends on it, directly or indirectly. Plants die without sunlight. Crops fail, food chains collapse, and once that process begins, humanity would quickly realize this is no longer a climate disaster. It's an extinction event. At first, countries would probably try to survive independently. Governments would ration food and fuel. Power grids would be pushed beyond their limits. Entire economies would collapse under the pressure of trying to keep millions of people alive in temperatures the planet was never designed to handle. But eventually, surviving on the surface would simply become impossible in many parts of Earth. Cities would freeze, infrastructure would fail, snowstorms would bury entire regions permanently. And above all of it, the sky itself would slowly become something completely alien. No more romantic sunsets, no bright mornings, no sunlight reflecting off the ocean. Just a dim, distant sun slowly fading into another star among thousands of others. And the further Earth drifted into interstellar space, the colder everything would become. Within a few years, average global temperatures could fall below -70 degrees Celsius. Eventually, the surface oceans would freeze completely, trapping liquid water beneath kilometers of ice. From space, Earth would no longer look alive. It would look like a frozen, dead world drifting endlessly through the darkness. At this point, reality would become inevitable. If we wanted to survive, we could no longer live on Earth the way we always had. We would have to become something else entirely. But here is where this story starts becoming genuinely fascinating. Because despite how dead Earth would look from the surface, the planet itself may not be completely frozen. At least, not on the inside. Deep beneath the surface, radioactive elements inside the planet constantly release energy. The core of Earth is already hotter than the surface of the Sun, and that heat would not suddenly disappear just because the planet lost its star, which means something extremely important could still survive beneath the ice: liquid water. As the surface oceans froze over, the deeper layers underneath could remain insulated from the freezing temperatures above. Eventually, Earth would begin looking less like a living planet and more like the icy moons we already see elsewhere in our solar system. The best example is Europa, frozen on the outside but hiding enormous oceans beneath kilometers of ice. And once scientists realized that, the idea of rogue planets suddenly became a lot more complicated. Because for a long time we assumed stars were the main requirements for life. No sun meant no habitable planet. Now, we are not so sure anymore. Some scientists believe rogue planets with thick enough atmospheres and enough internal heat could potentially keep liquid oceans hidden beneath frozen surfaces for billions of years. And honestly, that's a terrifying thought in its own way, because it means there could be entire worlds drifting through deep space that look completely dead from the outside, while something underneath is still alive. Maybe microbial life, maybe simple ecosystems, or maybe something far more advanced. And for humanity, this changes everything, because surviving on a rogue Earth would no longer be about trying to save the surface. The surface would already be lost. The real question would become, could humanity survive beneath it? And the answer, surprisingly, is probably. The future of our species would exist underground. At first, surviving beneath the ice would probably look more like caves or disaster shelters than actual cities. Military bunkers, underground transport tunnels, deep geothermal facilities built around the last reliable heat source on the planet. But over time, those shelters would have to evolve into something much bigger: entire underground civilizations. Humanity would have to build massive self-sustaining cities beneath the frozen surface, powered by geothermal energy from deep inside the Earth itself. Artificial lights would replace the sun. Underground farms would grow food beneath kilometers of rock and ice. Every drop of water, every source of heat, and every breath of air would become part of carefully controlled survival systems. Humanity would eventually stop living with the nature altogether. There would be no forests, no oceans visible from the surface, no rain, no natural daylight. The Earth people once knew would only exist in memories, tales, and maybe recordings, if they survive long enough. And honestly, the psychological effects alone would probably be devastating. Imagine entire generations of humans being born underground without ever seeing the sky. No stars moving across the night sky, no sunlight on your skin, no concept of seasons, just artificial lights turning on and off to stimulate a world that disappeared generations ago. Surviving would no longer just be a technological challenge. It would become a psychological one, because we evolved under open skies. Our entire biology is tied to sunlight, natural rhythms, and the surface of this planet. Remove all of that for long enough, and humanity itself could begin changing in ways we can barely predict. Eventually, the sun would disappear completely. Earth would become almost impossible to detect against the darkness of interstellar space. A frozen, hidden world carrying the last remnants of human civilization. And the saddest part of all of this is that after enough generations, people born on rogue Earth might not even miss the old world anymore. Because to them, our once full of life planet would be a completely alien concept. But even if humanity managed to survive beneath the ice, rogue Earth would still be a dying world. Because planets are not designed to survive without stars forever. At first, Earth's internal heat would keep parts of planet alive. But slowly, Earth itself would begin losing that battle too. The further the planet drifted into interstellar space, the colder everything would become. Over enormous periods of time, even the atmosphere could begin collapsing and freezing onto the surface itself. every generation born on a rogue Earth would inherit a planet slightly colder and slightly more dead than the one before getting. And honestly, that might be the most disturbing part of all of this. Not the moment Earth gets thrown out of the solar system, but the idea of humanity surviving long enough to watch its world slowly freeze beyond recovery forever. Scenarios like the one we discussed makes rogue planets feel unsettling to me. Not just the idea of worlds drifting alone through deep space, but the fact that some of them may not actually be dead. For most of our history, we believed life needed sunlight, that stars were the center of everything. Remove the sun and the planet becomes nothing more than a frozen rock drifting through the darkness. But rogue planets challenge that idea completely. Because somewhere out there in the galaxy, there could be worlds hidden beneath endless layers of ice, with underground oceans still moving in the dark. Entire ecosystems surviving without ever seeing a sunrise. Survival may not be impossible, but it would come at a very terrifying cost. The end of the surface world, the end of sustainability, the end of the Earth we know today. Humanity would survive by becoming something completely different. Well, let's hope that this will remain just a theory. Thank you for watching, keep looking up.